Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Holt from Exodus and formerly from Slayer, and you're listening to The Razor's Edge.
Welcome to The Razor's Edge, and today we have Svalbard guitarist and vocalist Serena Cherry with us. Serena, welcome. Svalbard have just finished their summer festival run. How was that for you?
Oh, the summer festivals this year have been exceptional. We got to play some real bucket list shows. We got to play at Hellfest, Arctangent again, always good. Alcatraz Festival in Belgium, with Full Force. Sorry, it's just called Full Force now. Full Force in Germany. Inferno. Well, I know Inferno's like in April, but it's a festival. I'm going to lump it in, which was really special for me because I have been to that festival so many times over the years. So, it's been absolutely incredible.
Excellent. So you release your fourth studio album, The Weight of the Mask, in a couple of weeks now. So I've been lucky enough to have the advance copy, and it sounds great. It's well documented how personal the record When I Die, Will I Get Better was for yourself. Does Weight of the Mask draw on as many personal experiences as the last album?
I'd say The Weight of the Mask is perhaps even more inward looking and personal than When I Die Will I Get Better, because When I Die Will I Get Better still has the sociological songs on there like Clickbait and whatnot. We've still got a bit more outward looking politics there, but The Weight of the Mask is all sort of very personal. It's all about dealing with depression, how it affects your relationship with yourself, how it affects your relationship with other people, how isolating mental illness can be. So yeah, it's I would describe this album as like the tunnel at the end of the light.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, so you obviously cover some very heavy topics in your lyrics, and you've just mentioned some of them there. So does it make it difficult reflecting on those topics when you're both writing and when you're performing live?
Oh, definitely. It's a very weird juxtaposition because writing about a song about a tough time, a bad experience, or just a bad time with depression. If you write a song about it, you've released it, so you've taken something that's been hurting you and you've transformed it into a song, and that transformative power is a very positive thing. But then on the other side, you now have a constant reminder of that experience and of that time, and you have to relive it every single night when you play that song every time on tour. So it is an interesting dynamic. And like, what's funny is after we wrote When I Die Will I Get Better, I promised myself I won't cut as deep on the next album. I won't be quite as personal or go quite as dark as I did on that album. And then I betrayed that promise and went even darker.
And is that something you're going to try and steer away from on the next album then, or are you going to carry on
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, to be honest. At the moment, we're really in Weight of the Mask mode. It's very all-consuming, about to release the album, so we haven't really thought about new music after this at the moment. It's like when you've just handed in an essay at school and you're like, I don't want to write an essay for a good few months now.
You need a break. You need to take that live now.
Definitely.
So obviously the lyrics are your department in the band, but when it comes to the music, how do you go about writing your songs?
We write collaboratively and we write in person together. So even though half of us live in London and half of us live in Bristol, we don't email each other ideas. We all get together in the room. How it usually works is Liam and I, especially with this fourth album, Liam and I would meet up in London after work and write riffs together. And he'd, write a riff and I'd write a lead over the top of that, or I'd have something and he'd put some chords behind it. And then we would come to the rehearsal studio with the bare bones of some melodies. And then Mark would write his drum parts and Matt would work on his bass lines. And then it all comes together. But it was a really arduous writing process this time. The album took us nearly 3 years to write. We were
Okay.
really like hypercritical of everything. There were so many songs that didn't even make the cut on the album because we were sort of questioning everything so meticulously. Like, does that riff add anything? Does that bit need to be there? Is that bit good enough?
Yeah.
I think because it's our first album on Nuclear Blast, and we admire that record label so much
Mm.
that we really internalized that pressure and wanted to do a good job.
Absolutely, and I think you've done it actually, because I loved When I Die Will I Get Better, but this is it's taken the band to the next level. I think definitely with the sound. It's a I can't put it into words. It's a magnificent sounding album, to be honest.
Oh, thank you. Wow, I'm glad you like it.
um, is there a hierarchy in the band when it comes to making musical decisions, or do you all approach it democratically?
Well, this is the issue, is that there isn't a hierarchy and everyone gets their say and everyone has their opinions. So if you've got an idea you love, but one other person in the band isn't feeling it, bye-bye, that idea is gone. So that is, yeah, that's definitely like we've had to really work on our creative relationship together to get to the point where everyone can have their say and it's fair and it doesn't feel like one person is sort of dominating the ideas with the songs. But yeah, there's no one gets the final say in
Mm.
Svalbard. We all have to agree on something for it to go into a song.
So what if one of you doesn't agree? Does that put a blocker on that sort of idea?
Yeah, yeah, it does. And that's why loads of songs ended up not making the cut on the album.
Um, so how many did you have to cut because of that? Would you say?
Oh my God. Like I would probably say there was at least 6 songs that didn't make the album because just of like little parts or ideas that either maybe one or two people weren't feeling or yeah, bits that people didn't like or think worked with the rest of the album. So very, yeah, hyper meticulous writing process.
And do you ever bring ideas like that back in future sessions to try and incorporate them maybe in a different way on a future record?
We have got a riff on this album that was originally going to be on the third album, When I Die Will I Get Better, but we couldn't make it work at the time. It's a riff, like Liam's had it for ages. He always used to play it at soundcheck, and now it's like finally a song. And I think with those, it's just a case of having the patience of going, okay, it's not working right now, but we are going to come back to it. So not everything that goes on the cutting room floor stays on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, excellent. So there seems to be more clean vocals on this album, I think, and than previous albums, maybe. And I think that's especially prevalent in Pillars in the Sand. That stands out for me as considerably more clean than the aggressive vocals. So, was there a conscious decision to mix up the vocals a bit more this time?
I think for me, it's all about serving the song and serving the lyric and what type of vocal delivery that lyric requires. So you'll notice Pillar in the Sand and How to Swim Down, which are the 2 songs that have the most clean singing on them, also have the kind of the most fragile, like soft, emotive lyrics. There's not an angry lyric on How to Swim Down or Pillar in the Sand, and so the sort of the screaming is less justified, I think, because the softer delivery really complements what you're actually saying, I think. And that's why I went for it. It was all about what is the most effective way to deliver these words in a song.
Yeah. And does switching your vocals up like that, especially when it comes to performing live, does that affect you at all? Having to switch between the clean and the angry vocals.
It's the, I'd be surprised if any vocalist in a metal band told you anything different. For me personally, this is one of the hardest things playing live in a metal band, is switching between clean singing and screaming, because they come from completely different places. And also my singing voice is quite fragile, and my singing voice isn't, I don't belt it out like Floor Jansen. Like, it is quite a soft singing voice. So the levels required, this is like super boring, but the levels required on one mic, there needs to be a lot of jumping just so my clean voice can cut through.
Yeah.
I've had it as well where I can scream on tour for weeks on end and it's fine, but the screaming will affect my clean singing.
Yeah.
So where my throat is a little bit damaged, the clean singing is much, much harder to do if you've been screaming for a few nights on end. So yeah, definitely it's one of the areas that I'd love to get more confident in.
Yeah, yeah. And you look at a band like Zeal and Ardor, and he's got multiple mics that he switches between during the performance. Is that something you've considered when you talk about levels, and have one mic for your clean and one mic for the scream?
We tried it. We've tried two mics a couple of times, but because I play guitar as well, it's and having two mic, and obviously some of the songs, the cleans and the screams are really close together. So sort of dancing around between two mics on different mic stands didn't really work. You know, I think if you're just a vocalist, it might be a bit easier to switch up those things. But at the moment, I haven't really found a tech solution yet.
And on this album, you introduced some violins played by Liam, I believe. So, what was the pull to add that extra element to your sound?
Again, it's all kind of about serving the song, really, and how this came about with Liam playing violin is I saw him play violin live with the band Morrow, who he does some violin parts for. And as soon as he'd got off stage, I basically cornered him and went, "Why aren't you doing that in Svalbard?" Because it was so beautiful. And he's such a great violin player that I couldn't believe he hadn't showcased that in Svalbard yet.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to just throw it in any old song for the sake of it. I mean, it wouldn't work on one of the more heavier songs. It had to be a song that was right for violin. And when we wrote How to Swim Down, that was the moment we knew. We were like, this is it. This is the violin ballad. Here we go. And Liam just layered up loads and loads of amazing violin parts. And yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. I'm amazed at how that song's turned out.
And how will you perform that in a live show? Is Liam switched to a violin mid-show?
The reality is we probably won't perform that song live because it has so many layers. Like, we don't play with backing tracks. We don't have, we don't have any of that extra stuff that a lot of other bands do. Everything you hear in Svalbard is created live by the four of us on stage. So to create something like How to Swim Down, which has like 4-part vocal harmonies and 6 layers of violins, I mean, we are not going to be able to afford to hire 6 violinists to do that live. So the reality is, I mean, we were sort of talking about what we could do, and we were thinking maybe we could do an acoustic version of that song live. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But the thought of doing something acoustic on stage is really daunting, to be honest with you.
And it's changing it up again, isn't it? If you're just doing it for the one song, you complete switch over for that, and then you're switching back again.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, this is your first album for Nuclear Blast. Did you ever think you'd see yourself signed to what is effectively a major heavy metal label? And what difference has it made to you being on the label this time?
I mean, I'd always dreamed of it, right from like discovering metal as a teenager, and especially Nuclear Blast, who all my favorite bands are on their record label: Nightwish, Avantasia. Like, it's crazy. So I'd always sort of had that dream of being on an amazing major record label like Nuclear Blast, but then for it to actually be a reality still hasn't sunk in yet. I don't think it'll even sink in when I'm holding the record in my hands and seeing that Nuclear Blast logo.
Yeah.
But it just, it's a bit of a dream come true, to be honest. And like, the working relationship so far has been fantastic. Like, to have that much support and to have, just them really helping with every aspect of getting the album out there and stuff has been incredible. So yeah, it's a bit of a dream come true, really.
Absolutely. And just to talk about the finances and the support that the label gives you, I was talking to Ol from Evil a couple of weeks ago about this, and he finds that people are often surprised that he has a day job. They're signed to a effectively major label and they still have to work. How much financial support can a label like Nuclear Blast give to you at the size of band that you are, and how much does it help?
I mean, this is the thing. It helps the financing side helps massively in terms of making a great record, having more time in the studio, more time, more availability to create music videos and all that kind of thing. You know, we have a budget that we didn't have before, but we don't make any money from this. Like the money funds the music, not us, not our lifestyle. So I think it always makes me laugh when I hear people go. I remember someone seeing me working and going, "Oh, I thought you wouldn't have to work anymore." And it's like, well, where does anyone in the music, where do music, oh, sorry, where does musicians get money from nowadays? Do you pay? Like, you don't make any money from Spotify. Like, 20% merch cuts from shows. Like, where would that money be coming from? Also, touring is the most expensive it's ever been, thanks to Brexit. So, like, any money you do make goes back into touring and making music. I think a lot of people don't realize how expensive it is to make music. But yeah, we all have day jobs. I foresee myself probably having a day job for the rest of my life. And that's just the reality of it. Like, unless you're Paramore, who again got big at a slightly different time when people still
Yeah.
paid for CDs. Um, it's just, yeah, it's not the most viable career option in the world at all. But you know, I don't do it for the money.
Yeah. And how flexible are your employers when it comes to having to go into the studio to record, to tour, those sort of things?
I'm very, very lucky. Before I worked um, at PC Gamer and Games Radar, I had a string of sort of real crappy, low rung jobs where, you know, 0 hours, no contract, all that kind of stuff, just to get by, just to be able to work when you could, to pay the bills, to be able to eat, and then to be able to go off on tour. But recently, and just over a year ago, I got a job in the games industry, and I'm treated with so much respect, and they're very, you know, there's a lot of give and take with when it comes to time off for touring, and they're very understanding. Do you know, every job I had before this one, I wouldn't even tell people I was in a band. So when I needed, because I didn't want the judgment, I didn't want the, oh, what's all that screaming nonsense? You know what people are like, people who aren't in the metal sphere, the fucking stupid shit they say about it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to not tell people I worked with that I was in a band, but working where I am now, they all know and they're all really supportive. And I'm incredibly lucky to have that, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So back on the album, you've released a couple of singles from it so far. What's the fans' reactions been to it, or your perception of the fans' reactions to the music so far?
I mean, it's been awesome. Like, yeah, I tell you one thing I've really noticed is how much these songs are kicking off when we play them live. So we finish our set with Eternal Spirits now, and every time I look up on the final riff and I see a sea of people headbanging, like that is an incredible feeling. I don't think we've ever had a riff that has created that moment live before.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing to see the reaction, like when we played Faking It at Arc Tangent, and people already knowing the words. Like, that's absolutely crazy. It blows my mind. I mean, comments are a bit of a minefield for me. I tread carefully when it comes to reading the comments
Yeah.
because I tend to receive some pretty interesting ones. So yeah, in terms of like the internet feedback, there's less of that I see. But yeah, in terms of playing the new stuff live and things, it's been really exciting seeing the reaction so far.
And do you think that's partly down to the two music videos that have accompanied them? Do you think they're having an impact?
I feel like releasing those two music videos on Nuclear Blast, its YouTube channel, has had an impact. You know, you're obviously reaching far more people. They've got millions of followers, millions of subscribers, and that really enables us to kind of reach new people. Or yeah, like I definitely, hmm, I'm not sure. Like I know How to Swim Down, the music video for that has received a lot of kind of emotional responses. So that definitely seems to have really illustrated the song very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you feel about making those videos and the process behind it, being in the studio all day, just repeatedly going over the song until you get the best take?
Making a music video is an interesting process, because obviously it's a highly creative process for the people who are filming and editing the footage. But for the band, it's like the opposite of a creative process, because you're not writing anything, you're not performing to anyone, you're not doing anything new, you're just kind of repeating over and over and over again. And it's an interesting, because you can have a great laugh. We had a real laugh doing making the Faking It video, which had with all the funny like pink rooms and stuff like that. But simultaneously, it's like it's one of those aspects of being in a band that is quite divorced from music, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could, I can't even imagine having to go through that and just repeat it over and over again throughout a day just to get it right. It blows my mind. When a colleague of mine spoke to you on the last album cycle, you spoke about how you were treated and how you were perceived when you first started trying to form a band as a female musician. Do you think the perception of women in music has changed at all over the last few years?
I think it's difficult to generalize and to speak for everyone and sort of say, oh, what the perception of women in music is. But one thing I have noticed is much more women in bands at the moment, and much more representation of women on festival lineups, which is really exciting to see. And hopefully because of that, we're going to see less of the kind of low expectations of women in bands, or less of the kind of objectification that has happened in the past. So yeah, I'd say that's really encouraging and positive to me. There was once a time where I would play a festival and I'd be the only woman on the lineup, or we'd do a tour and I'd be the only woman on the tour, and that isn't the case now, which is fantastic to see. So hopefully that means there's a shift in the way things are operating in the music industry.
Yeah, and the last two times I've seen you live in the UK, you've brought out with you, I think, Harriet on the first tour, who are doing amazing things at the moment, and then on the second tour it was Mountain Caller, who've just signed to Church Road Records. So, how important is it for you to bring bands like that out with you on tour and give them the exposure that you may be getting now you're getting bigger?
I mean, to use the words of testament, you've got to practice what you preach. And it is very important to me to have women and transgender people on our lineups. It's something that I will continue to deliberately make, push for that whenever we can. Anytime we have any element of control of who gets to play with us or who supports us, then that's, those are the bands I'm looking to want to give them the platform, really.
Absolutely. So with the album out imminently, what are the next 12 months looking like for Svalbard?
We have our upcoming headline tour in October. In a month's time, on the 14th of October, we'll be heading out to the Netherlands to play Soul Crusher Festival. And then we have 4 dates in Germany straight after that, a date in Paris. And then we come back to the UK Friday, the 20th of October, to play Beyond the Redshift Festival in London. That's Cult of Luna's Fest Day Festival with an amazing lineup. And then we finish up the tour in Leeds on Saturday, the 21st of October. Again, another amazing lineup, Zetra, Hidden Mothers, and Without Love. So really looking forward to that one. We've just announced our support for that tour, and it's Bones of Minerva again, another fantastic band with women in. So really, really excited to tour with them. And then after that, we've got more stuff to be announced. Excellent.
So is that more stuff to be announced? UK based tour, because obviously you're doing like 2 dates, I think, aren't you? This for the rest of the year in the UK. Will we see you more in the UK next year?
I genuinely don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you keep up to date with future episodes by subscribing to our channels. For more information on this podcast, or for all the latest music news, reviews, interviews and more, head over to our website www.therazorsedge.rocks.